Have you ever felt like you were pulled away from everything, even though you did nothing wrong? Have you ever walked among familiar people, yet felt like you came from a completely different world? Have you ever asked God, why do I have to carry this loneliness, only to be met with silence? If so, it's possible you're walking in something few understand, the experience of being chosen. When God places a calling on someone's life, the first thing He often does is not to lift them up, but to pull them out. Out of the crowd, out of the familiar, out of the noise and comfort of what once felt safe and secure. Being chosen always begins with being set apart. But being set apart rarely feels peaceful. In reality, it's painful, it's quiet, and it often makes you feel completely alone. Those who are chosen cannot live ordinary lives, because they weren't created for ordinary purposes. They can't endure shallow conversations anymore. They no longer find joy in temporary pleasures. They can't pretend that the things of this world satisfy their soul. Because deep inside, there's a fire, something no one else around them understands. A stirring that keeps them up at night, asking, Lord, why can't I live like everyone else? Why do I always feel like an outsider, even in my own spiritual family? The answer is this: you weren't born to fit in, you were born to lead. I once knew a young woman who always sat in the back of the church, silent, reserved, thoughtful. People thought she was distant, cold, even disconnected, but no one knew that every night she wept on her floor, praying in silence, asking God why He had her walk this path alone. And then, God began to use her, not in grand, public ways, but in quiet, powerful moments. She had no fame, no microphone, no stage, but the people she touched, one by one, received something sacred and undeniably real. That's what happens when you're chosen. You don't need human approval to walk in divine assignment. You don't need applause to know you're on the right path. You don't need to be understood, because what's inside of you didn't come from them. It came from the one who created you. But the deepest pain isn't just isolation. It's when you try to bring the people you love along, and they turn away. It's when you share the vision in your heart, and they look at you with confusion, even pity. Being chosen doesn't just separate you from the world. It often separates you from the ones you thought would always stand beside you. That's when you learn the first great lesson of the calling. Not everyone is meant to go with you. And that's okay. God doesn't need you to be understood. He needs you to obey. He needs you to trust Him, even when no one else walks with you. He needs you to stand firm, even if you're the only one standing. A true calling never begins with the crowd. It begins with one courageous heart, willing to walk, even in the silence. In the next part of this video, we'll explore one of the most difficult seasons in a chosen life. When you pray, and hear nothing from God. Is that silence rejection, or is it His way of training you in the dark? The servants of God, both men and women, have always endured seasons of isolation before elevation. Look at the life of Moses. He was raised in the palace of Egypt, surrounded by wealth, power, and education, but deep down, he knew he didn't truly belong. There was something different stirring in him. God called him to lead His people out of slavery. But when Moses stepped into that calling, the first thing he encountered was rejection, not from strangers, but from his own people. Look at Joseph. He was given a divine dream, a grand promise, but before he reached the palace, he was thrown into a pit, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. Before the promise, there was pain. Before the throne, there were chains. Then David, anointed as king while still a boy. But instead of being ushered into royalty, he was sent right back to the fields. tending sheep, while his brothers stayed close to their father. He remained in isolation, and even after his anointing, he spent years being hunted, living as a fugitive. Throughout Scripture, we see a repeated pattern. Before the chosen ones step into glory, they must walk through rejection, misunderstanding, and separation. But that separation, it's more than loneliness. It's a breaking. It's the deep ache that causes you to question everything. It's the kind of silence that brings your soul to its knees. And yet, God uses the breaking, because when He's preparing you for something greater, He must first cut away everything that cannot come with you. Sometimes it's relationships that were only meant for a season, but you've tried to make them permanent. Sometimes it's habits, thought patterns, or comforts that once served you, but now hold you back. Sometimes it's the things you love the most, things that distract you from hearing His voice. And because we often won't let go ourselves, God has to pull us out of the crowd, out of the comfort zone, out of everything we once believed was essential, to show us what truly matters. I know, there are nights when you lie awake and whisper, "Lord, why is this burden so heavy? Why does it feel like I'm not strong enough to carry this?" But let me tell you the truth. You are strong enough. You were made for this. You were chosen not because you're perfect, but because you're willing to be shaped. If God called you, He will equip you. This loneliness is not the end of your story. It's the beginning. It's the sacred place where God molds you. It's the fire that purifies your purpose. It's the stillness where His voice becomes unmistakably clear. It's the place where you learn to walk without applause, trusting only in His presence. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize the loneliness was never loneliness. It was God walking beside you, in silence, shaping you, preparing you, so that when He finally sends you, you'll be ready. Rejection, it cuts deep. It doesn't just hurt your heart. It shakes your identity. It makes you question your calling. You step out in faith, believing that others will see what God has placed inside you. You expect support. You hope for encouragement. Instead, people walk away. They stay silent. They avoid you. They question you. And you start to think, maybe I don't belong anywhere. Maybe I'm not really called. Maybe I should just give up. But listen closely. Rejection is not punishment. It is preparation. It's not God telling you that you're unworthy. It's God whispering, "I am setting you apart, because what I've placed in you is too precious to be diluted." When God redirects your path, He's not just leading you, He's protecting you. He's making sure you don't settle for something far beneath the purpose He has placed on your life. Look at Joseph. He was rejected by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery. He had dreams, visions of what God was going to do through his life. But before he could step into that destiny, he had to walk through the fire of rejection. If his brothers had accepted him, if they had welcomed his dream, Joseph would have stayed where he was. He would have never been pushed into Egypt, never been placed in Pharaoh's palace, never reached the position God had already prepared for him. Sometimes, the very people you think will support you are the ones who push you away. They won't understand your vision. They won't see what burns in your heart. And you will be tempted to shrink yourself, to dim your calling, just to fit in, just to be accepted. But God didn't call you to be accepted. He called you to be set apart. He called you to rise higher, to take a path few are willing to walk, to stand where others refuse to stand. And that's why rejection is not something to fear. It's something to embrace. When you're rejected, don't waste time chasing after people who cannot see your worth. Don't sit in despair mourning over closed doors. Because if God allowed that door to close, it means He has something greater waiting ahead. You may not see it now. You may not understand it in the moment. But if you trust Him, if you keep walking, if you don't give up, you'll realize that every rejection was actually a disguised blessing. Every no was simply a step toward God's greater yes. Some of you are still holding on to the sting of rejection. You're still thinking about the ones who walked away. You're replaying the words they said. You're allowing their opinions to define your worth. But hear me, your value is not determined by the people who left you. Your calling is not cancelled just because someone else didn't believe in you. If God called you, that's the only confirmation you need. If God chose you, no rejection can undo what He has already written over your life. You need to shift your perspective. Stop seeing rejection as a loss, start seeing it as proof that God is moving. He's closing doors that need to be closed. He's removing people who can't go where you're going. He's making sure that when you arrive in your destiny, you are surrounded by the right people, in the right place, at the right time. Even Jesus faced rejection. He was despised, mocked, and ridiculed by the very people He came to save. He was betrayed by those closest to Him. Yet He never let their rejection stop Him from fulfilling His purpose. And if the Son of God Himself had to walk through rejection, do you really think you won't? Jesus had to endure rejection. So why do we think we'll be embraced by everyone? Why do we assume that being chosen by God means we'll automatically be accepted? Here's the truth. The greater the calling, the greater the rejection, the higher the purpose, the lonelier the road. But this is what you need to understand. Rejection is not the end, it's a vital part of your preparation. It's shaping you, it's refining you, it's making you stronger. And one day, when you step into the place God has prepared for you, you'll look back and realize every rejection was God's way of saying, I have something better. You'll see that He was always in control, always guiding your steps, always preparing you for something far greater than you could imagine. So the next time you face rejection, don't weep over it. Don't beg to be accepted. Stand tall, lift your head, and remember, you were never meant to fit in, you were called to stand out. And God is using every rejection to push you closer to your destiny. There comes a point in life when you realize, before God elevates you, He allows you to be broken. It's not the kind of breaking that destroys you. It's the kind that strips away everything that can't come with you into the next season. It's a breaking that refines, that humbles, that prepares, because God never promotes without preparation. And preparation always comes with pain. Some people think being chosen means walking an easy path, free from struggle. But look at anyone God has ever used, and you'll see the pattern. Before elevation, isolation. Before breakthrough, heartbreak. Before the crown, crushing. And in that crushing, you'll feel like everything is falling apart. You'll feel like even the most secure things are being ripped away. You'll cry out, Lord, why am I going through so much pain when all I've done is try to follow you? But that's the reality of being chosen. You must walk through what others cannot, because you're being prepared for something they could never carry. When God places a high calling on your life, He cannot allow you to enter it unprepared. He won't let you carry pride, bitterness, unforgiveness, or dependency on others into that calling. So He allows the breaking, not because He's cruel, but because what He has for you is too great for who you are right now. Look at David, anointed at a young age, called to be king, but before he ever touched the throne, he had to run for his life, hide in caves, be betrayed by the very people he once fought for. God had already chosen him, but he wasn't ready yet. You may have the anointing, but you still have to go through the process. And that process is rarely painless. It's heavy, it's humbling, It breaks you. Some of you are in the middle of that very process right now. You're in the season of breaking, and you don't understand why. You're looking at your life, wondering, why do doors keep closing? Why are relationships falling apart? Why are even the things I once prayed for slipping through my fingers? You ask God, why me? Why this? Why now? And the answer is simple, yet profound. Because He is forming you into who you were always meant to be. Gold is only refined through fire. Diamonds are only formed under pressure. And oil only flows when the olive is crushed. And you, the dreams God has placed inside of you, the purpose He's woven into your being, the strength He knows you carry, can only be revealed through the breaking. It cannot emerge when life is comfortable. It won't surface when everything is easy. It rises up when you are brought to your knees, when you have nothing left but God, when every earthly thing has failed you, and the only thing left to hold on to is His Word. You may not see it now, but one day, you'll look back and thank Him for the breaking. One day, you'll realize that every tear, every heartbreak, every loss was not working against you. It was working for you. You'll see that what you thought was rejection was actually protection. What felt like suffering was actually preparation. What seemed like the end was really just the beginning of the person God was shaping you to become. So don't resist the process. Don't rush the healing. Let God do what He needs to do. Let Him strip away what no longer serves you. Let Him remove the distractions, the attachments, the dependencies that are keeping you from stepping fully into your calling. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it may feel unfair. But when He is finished, you will be stronger, wiser, and unshakable. And when the time comes for your elevation, you will be ready. When God sets you apart, He doesn't always do it in a dramatic way. There aren't always signs and wonders for the world to see. Instead, He does something deeper, something quieter. He makes you different. And for a long time, you may not even understand it yourself. You just know, you don't quite fit in. You can be surrounded by people, yet feel like you're walking a completely different path. You can receive opportunities, but something deep inside tells you, they're not yours to take. You can be in relationships, but they never seem to last. And at some point, you begin to ask, why? Why do I feel like I don't belong? Why does my journey seem so different from everyone else's? And the answer is simple. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out. You were never meant to fit into a place where you don't belong. You were not created to be like everyone else. Because the calling on your life is unlike anyone else's. There is something within you. Something God has set apart for a purpose far greater than what you can see right now. And that kind of purpose, it requires a different path, a process that many will never understand. There's a weight that comes with being chosen, and often, along with that weight, comes loneliness. If you're not careful, you'll start resenting the very thing that makes you special. You'll begin to see your uniqueness as a burden instead of a blessing. You'll start to think something's wrong with you, because you don't think like others. You don't move like others. And you certainly don't settle like others. But let me tell you something. Being different is not a curse. It's proof that God's hand is on your life. It's a sign that He is calling you higher, preparing you for something greater, something that requires you to be set apart. But the process, it's not always easy. It means you'll lose some people along the way. It means you'll go through seasons of isolation, where it feels like no one really understands you. It means walking through doors alone, trusting that if God led you there, He will sustain you. It means making decisions that don't make sense to others, decisions that demand faith, decisions that require sacrifice. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace. surrounded by wealth, power, and privilege. But deep inside, he knew he didn't belong. He could have stayed. He could have lived comfortably. But he was called to something greater. And that calling led him into the wilderness, into isolation, into a season where he had nothing but God. Some of you are in that wilderness right now. You feel like you're walking alone, cut off from everything familiar. And you're tempted to think, maybe I missed it, maybe I messed up. But hear me clearly, this is not punishment, it is preparation. God is not keeping you apart to harm you. He's setting you apart to prepare you. He's teaching you how to depend on Him, how to trust Him when the path isn't clear, how to walk by faith, even when you cannot see what's ahead. And when the time comes, when He finally reveals what He's been preparing you for, you'll look back and understand. Every lonely season, every difficult choice, every moment you felt out of place was necessary. You'll see He never ignored you, never forgot about you. He was shaping you, setting you apart, ensuring that when your moment came, you'd be ready to walk boldly into your purpose. You will be ready, because here's what most people don't realize. When you are chosen, you also become a target. The very moment God sets you apart, the instant He places a calling on your life, the battle begins. And for many, that battle starts early. Some of you have faced opposition since you were young. It feels like you've had to fight for everything. Your peace, your purpose, even your existence. You didn't go looking for the fight. The fight came looking for you. And you ask, why? Why does my life feel like a constant battlefield? While others seem to walk an easier road, you've endured loss, rejection, betrayal, hardship, and if you're being honest, sometimes you wanted to give up. But hear me clearly, the intensity of the attack on your life is proof of the anointing over your life. The enemy does not waste time on people who are no threat. He doesn't go after those with no purpose, no calling, no destiny. He targets those who are dangerous to His kingdom, those whom God has marked for something greater. That's why your battles have been so fierce. That's why you've survived things that should have destroyed you. That's why the enemy has tried over and over to take you out. Because he sees what's in you, even when you can't see it yourself. Look at Joseph. God gave him a dream, a vision of what he would one day become. But before he reached that place, he had to be thrown into the pit, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned. It looked like everything in his life was falling apart. But in reality, everything was falling into place. Every trial, every setback, every moment of pain was positioning him for the purpose God had already ordained. Some of you are in that very place right now. You're in the pit. You're looking at your life, at all the pain, all the struggle, all the attacks, and wondering how any of it could possibly make sense. But what you don't see is what God is doing behind the scenes. What you don't realize is that every battle you've fought has been training you for the place God is leading you. The things that were meant to break you are building you. The struggles that were meant to destroy you are strengthening you. Because here's the truth: God does not call the untested. He doesn't place great responsibility in the hands of the unprepared. So He allows the struggle, not to weaken you, but to equip you. He allows the battle, not to defeat you, but to develop you. Because if you are going to carry the weight of the calling on your life, you must be strong enough to stand. You must be wise enough to discern. You need to be resilient enough to keep going, even when everything inside you wants to give up. And that's exactly why the enemy has fought you so relentlessly. That's why the pressure has been so intense. Because he knows that once you step into who God created you to be, once you realize the power and authority placed inside of you, There's nothing he can do to stop you. He can attack, but he cannot win. He can throw obstacles in your path, but he cannot take away what God has already ordained for your life. So don't let the battle make you bitter. Don't let the attacks make you doubt your identity. Understand this: every fight, every challenge, every hardship is confirmation that you are walking in divine purpose. It is proof that you are not ordinary, that you have been set apart, that heaven's hand is upon your life. And when you come out of this season, you will be ready for everything God has promised you. Keep fighting, keep standing, because the victory is already yours. When God places a calling on your life, He doesn't just prepare the path for you. He prepares you for the path. And that preparation is rarely easy. It's rarely what you expect. And it's almost never what you would have chosen for yourself. Because being chosen doesn't mean things will be easy. It doesn't mean doors will always open without resistance. It doesn't mean you'll always be understood, accepted, or celebrated. Sometimes, being chosen means walking alone. Sometimes, it means being rejected by the very people you thought would support you. Sometimes, it means enduring storms you never saw coming, and fighting battles you never imagined you'd face. In those moments, you may begin to question, am I really called? Because in your mind, if God truly chose you, shouldn't the road be smoother? Shouldn't the people around you recognize your heart and stand with you? Shouldn't the burdens feel lighter, and the path more aligned? But what if I told you, the struggle is the evidence, the loneliness is part of the process, the breaking is what makes you. Think of David. When the prophet anointed him to be king, he was just a young shepherd boy. He wasn't sitting on a throne. He wasn't in a palace. He wasn't even considered by his own family. He was left out in the fields, forgotten. And after he was anointed, after he received the confirmation that he was chosen, his life didn't get easier. It got harder. He found himself fleeing for his life, hiding in caves, betrayed, misunderstood, facing giants, fighting battles he didn't ask for. But all of it, every lonely night, every painful moment, every season of uncertainty, was shaping him into the king he was destined to become. You might be in that season right now. You feel like you've been cast aside, forgotten. You feel the weight of life pressing down on your shoulders. You've been faithful, yet the doors haven't opened. You've been obedient, but the road has been rough. And now, you're beginning to wonder, do I have the strength to keep going? Let me remind you, just because you haven't seen the promise yet doesn't mean it's not coming. Just because you're in the wilderness doesn't mean you've taken the wrong path. God isn't punishing you, He's preparing you. He's strengthening you in the silence. He's refining your character in the hidden places. He's teaching you to trust Him when there's nothing else left to hold on to. Because when the time comes, when He says it's time to step into your calling, you won't just be ready, you'll be unshakable. And the truth is, not everyone will understand your process. Not everyone will see what God is doing within you. Some will question you. Some will doubt you. Some will even walk away, because they don't recognize what's been placed inside you. But don't let their misunderstanding cause you to doubt what God has already confirmed. Don't let their rejection cause you to question your identity. If people walk away, let them go. If doors close, trust that they weren't meant for you. If the road is harder than expected, know that what God is building in you is greater than anything you ever imagined. Those who are chosen will always face the fiercest battles. They will always carry the heaviest burdens. But they will also walk in the greatest power. Because when you've been tested, when you've been refined by fire, when you've walked through the valley and still held on to your faith, Nothing can shake you. Nothing can break you. So don't be discouraged by the process. Don't let the struggle make you lose sight of the promise. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep believing, because what God has spoken over your life will not return void. And when the time comes, when the preparation is complete, when everything He has been shaping inside you is finally ready, nothing in this world will be able to stop what He has ordained for you. Stay faithful, stay strong, because your time is coming. And if you're still wondering why the road has been so difficult, the answer is this: because you have been chosen. Chosen to rise, not to fall. Chosen to walk forward, not to retreat. Chosen to stand firm, even when no one else is standing with you. Every wilderness, every closed door, every rejection, every silent tear you've cried in the dark, none of it has been wasted. That is where God has been forging you, so that you don't just survive. You become unshakable, because He didn't call you to simply exist. He called you to lead, to ignite, to break chains, and to bring light into the darkest places. If you're walking through loneliness, know that you are not alone. If you're in a season of waiting, know that He's working behind the scenes. And if you feel too weak to continue, remember His power is made perfect in your weakness. Folded hands, let me say this to you, as a confirmation, a declaration, a divine reminder. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared. You are not cast out. You are being set apart. And your moment, it's closer than you think. Movie camera, if this message spoke to your spirit, don't forget to hit subscribe, because you are not alone on this journey. Glowing star, share this video with someone who feels weary, lost, or forgotten, because maybe you are the answer to their silent prayer. Fire, and don't miss the next part, because we're going to dive into something powerful. How to hear God's voice, even in the silence. Because sometimes He's not being silent. He's teaching you how to listen with your soul. See you in the next video. Stay rooted, because you've been chosen.